in the shadow of the Roman Empire. During the very century that witnessed the birth of Christianity, another figure walked the earth. A man spoken of in whispers and hailed in public squares. He was a philosopher, a traveler, a miracle worker. His name was Apollonius of Tyana, and his story is one of the most enigmatic and controversial tales of the ancient world. Was he a divine sage, a charismatic charlatan, or something else entirely? Join us as we journey back 2,000 years to uncover the truth behind the man some called the pagan Christ. Our story begins in Tyana, a prosperous city in Cappadocia, part of modern-day Turkey. It was here, around the year 03 BC, that Apollonius was born into a wealthy and respected family. From a young age, he was exceptional. He possessed a prodigious memory and a deep thirst for knowledge. At just 16, he renounced his family's wealth, embracing the strict, ascetic lifestyle of a Pythagorean philosopher. This meant a vow of silence for 5 years, a purely vegetarian diet, wearing only simple linen garments, and walking barefoot. He wasn't just studying philosophy, he was living it, believing that purifying the body was the first step to purifying the soul. This commitment to asceticism set him apart. In a world indulging in Roman excess, Apollonius was a stark contrast. His 5 years of silence were not spent in isolation, but in quiet observation. Traveling through the towns of Asia Minor, people were drawn to his serene presence and the wisdom he seemed to radiate without uttering a word. When he finally broke his silence, his words were said to carry immense power and authority. He began his public life not as a mere teacher, but as a reformer and a healer. The primary source for Apollonius's life is a lengthy biography written by a sophist named Philostratus, nearly 2 centuries after Apollonius lived, commissioned by the Empress Julia Domina. The life of Apollonius of Tyana is a masterpiece of ancient literature, but it's also a source of great debate. Philostratus claims he based his work on the memoirs of Demes, a devoted disciple who supposedly accompanied Apollonius on all his journeys. However, no trace of Demes or his memoirs has ever been found outside of Philostratus's text. This has led many scholars to question whether Demes was a real person or a clever literary device, designed to give the story an air of eyewitness authenticity. According to Philostratus, Apollonius's travels were legendary. His quest for wisdom took him far beyond the borders of the Roman Empire. He journeyed to Babylon, seeking the knowledge of the Magi, and then pressed eastward all the way to India. There, he supposedly met with the wise Brahmins who lived in a secluded mountain monastery. He spent months with them, learning their secrets of philosophy, astrology, and even communicating with animals. They recognized him not as a student, but as an equal, a master who had rediscovered ancient truths on his own. This journey to the East endowed him with a reputation for possessing exotic, almost supernatural knowledge, which he brought back to the Greco-Roman world. Upon his return, Apollonius's fame soared. He traveled extensively through Greece, Italy, and Spain, and even ventured into Egypt and Ethiopia. Wherever he went, crowds gathered to hear him speak. He preached a message of moral reform, urging people to turn away from blood sacrifices and towards a more spiritual, internal form of worship. He spoke out against tyranny and corruption, often at great personal risk. He advised cities, settled disputes, and, according to his biography, performed incredible feats that blurred the line between philosopher and miracle worker. The tales of his miracles are staggering. In Ephesus, he is said to have identified a plague before it began, pointing to an old beggar and declaring him to be the demon causing the sickness. The townspeople, skeptical at first, stoned the man. When they moved the pile of rocks, they found not a human body, but the corpse of a massive black dog, the embodiment of the plague. In Rome, he reportedly revived a young noblewoman who had died on her wedding day. As the funeral procession passed, Apollonius touched the girl and whispered something in her ear, and she sat up, alive and well, returned to her grieving family. He was credited with healing the sick, casting out demons, and even possessing the gift of prophecy, foreseeing events with uncanny accuracy. These stories bear a striking resemblance to the miracles attributed to Jesus of Nazareth in the Gospels. This similarity did not go unnoticed in the ancient world. For pagans looking for a figure to rival Jesus, Apollonius was the perfect candidate. He was a learned philosopher, a world traveler, and a miracle worker whose life was documented in a sophisticated literary work. The life of Apollonius was used by some pagan thinkers as a form of counter-propaganda, an attempt to show that everything claimed about Jesus could also be said of their own divine man, and that Apollonius, with his philosophical pedigree, was perhaps the superior figure. This rivalry created a complex legacy. Early Christian writers, like Eusebius and Augustine, fiercely attacked Philostratus's work. They denounced Apollonius as a sorcerer, a demonic magician who used black magic to deceive the masses. They saw the parallels to Jesus not as coincidence, but as a deliberate, wicked attempt to create a pagan alternative to Christ. For centuries, this was the dominant Christian view of Apollonius, a dark, dangerous figure, a fraud who worked with evil forces. However, not everyone saw him in such a negative light. Some later thinkers, even within a Christian context, saw Apollonius as a genuine sage, a wise man who had tapped into universal truths. During the Renaissance, his story was rediscovered, and he was seen as a symbol of ancient wisdom and esoteric knowledge. In the Enlightenment, skeptics used his story to question the uniqueness of the Christian miracles, suggesting they were part of a broader, more common tradition of divine men in the ancient world. So, who was the real Apollonius? Was he a divine being, as Philostratus suggests? Was he a demonic sorcerer, as his Christian detractors claimed? Or was he a highly intelligent and charismatic philosopher whose followers exaggerated his deeds into legends? The truth is likely somewhere in between. It's plausible that a historical Apollonius existed, a Pythagorean philosopher who was known for his wisdom, his ascetic lifestyle, and his powerful public speaking. He may have practiced forms of faith healing or had a knack for what we might now call psychology, allowing him to achieve results that seemed miraculous to the people of his time. His travels, while perhaps not as extensive as Philostratus claims, could have exposed him to a wide range of ideas, which he synthesized into his own unique philosophy. The stories of his miracles, his encounters with emperors, and his debates with mythical gymnosophists were likely embellished over time. First by his followers and then masterfully woven into a compelling narrative by Philostratus. The author's goal was not to write history as we know it, but to create an ideal portrait of a perfect sage, a pagan hero for a changing world. The final years of Apollonius's life are as mysterious as his beginning. He faced down the tyrannical Emperor Domitian in a Roman court, defending himself against charges of treason and sorcery. But just as the verdict was to be read, he vanished from the packed courtroom, only to reappear moments later to his friends hundreds of miles away in Puteoli. According to the tale, he lived to be nearly 100 years old before ascending to a higher plane of existence. His death, like his life, was not an end, but a transformation. A young man who doubted his immortality was visited by Apollonius in a dream, who declared, "The soul is immortal, and it is not yours but Providence's." The story of Apollonius of Tyana is a powerful reminder that history is not just a collection of facts, but a tapestry of stories told for different purposes. His life became a battleground for the soul of the Roman Empire, a symbol in the great cultural and religious shift from paganism to Christianity. He remains a fascinating, ghostly figure, walking the fine line between history and myth, philosophy and magic. He challenges our understanding of the ancient world and forces us to ask what separates a philosopher from a prophet, a man from a god. The man from Tyana may be long gone, but the questions his story raises are as immortal as his soul was said to be. Thank you for watching. If you found this journey into the past intriguing, please like this video, subscribe to our channel for more historical mysteries, and share your thoughts on Apollonius in the comments below. Until next time.